Hi, I'm back. So we were talking about, so we're still doing multiplication of fractions, and I asked in the last video, okay, what if we flip the two fractions? What happens? Can we still represent it using the area model? So now we're going to look at the second one, because remember we've been using the second one as a base to represent using an area model. So I am going to represent my 3/4. That's my 3/4. Okay. And I have to figure out what is 6/5 off 3/4. Okay, so I'll divide my area model, now not from top to bottom, but side to side, into 5 equal bits. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that gets tricky. So now I have to figure out what is 6/5. So let's look at 6/5 to see what it actually means. So that means 1 and 1 over 5. 1 and 1/5 if I represent this as a mixed fraction, which also means, this means there's 1 which is 5 over 5, and there's a bit that is 1/5, right? So first we're going to take a look over here. So I divided the area model, and especially the green part that represents 3/4. I divided these bits into 5 equal parts. So this one right over here, that is 1/5 of 3/4. I have another 1/5 right over here. I have another one over here. I have another one over here. And I have another one over here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that means I have now, this is all of this is 1/5 of 3/4, right? And then I have 5 bits. So now I actually represented, what did I represent? I have represented 5/5 of 3/4, right? I've represented 5/5 of 3/4. And yeah, that's 1 of 3/4. Just, this is still 3/4. But I still have to have this bit. I'm missing this 1/5. So I'm going to look at how many of these blocks that I colored in to make 1/5 of 3/4. I colored in 1 and a 2 and 3 to make 1/5 of 3/4. So to add one more piece, I have to see that I'm adding one piece, the second piece, the third piece. So I'm adding 3 pieces right over here. So these parts that I circled in blue, those are the parts that represent in total 6/5 of 3/4, because remember this is 1/5 of 3/4, right? So I'm going to count. First, I'm going to figure out what my unit fraction is, so I can figure out what my denominator is, unit fraction. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equal parts. 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. So 4 times 5. I know that there are 20 units inside this whole, so unit fraction is 1/20th. So I know that denominator for my answer is going to be 20. And I'm going to count how many did I circle in blue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So the same answer, 18 over 20. And we can simplify this by dividing both the denominator and the numerator by 2. And we have 9/10 as our answer. And I'm going to add one thing. So look over here. So we figured first what is 1/4 of 3/4. And then we figured what is 1/5 of 3/4, right? Because we broke 6/5 down into 2 parts. One part is 5/5. That's the one part, the 1/2 part. And we have 1/5 left. So we did 1/2 to figure out 1/2 of 3/4, and we added 1/5 of 3/4. So we could break this question into what is 5/5 of 3/4 plus 1/5 of 3/4. You can break it down as you are doing 2 different steps. So if you like, you can create 2 different wholes, 2 different area models, and you can add up the parts that you actually colored in. So I will show you that next. Just give me one moment for me to erase all of this. Okay, so what do I mean? So what I mean is I can do 2 different calculations, because first I'm going to do this, right? And we will add 1/5 of 3/4. Okay, let's see whether we get the same answer. So, I am going to represent my 3/4. Okay, and I'm going to divide my area model into 5 equal parts. Whoops, sort of equal parts. Okay, so now it's one whole of 3/4. So I know that I'm counting all of the 3/4, because, well, this is my 1/5 of 3/4, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of that. So 5/5 of 3/4, right? And then I know that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 on this side, 4 times 5. I know that the unit fraction is 1/20th, so my denominator is going to be 20, and I colored in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right. So that's the answer to my number 1 part. And then I will figure out what is 1/5 of 3/4 in a separate one. Okay, so I'm coloring in my 3/4. I will divide my area model into 5 equal parts. Okay, and you can see that this part I have 5, like that. And now I want to figure out what is 1/5 of 3/4. I'm just only circling this a little bit because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 5 equal parts within the 3/4, within the parts that I colored in blue, but I only need 1/5 of 3/4, right? I divided 3/4 into 5 equal parts, and I only need 1 slice of that, so 1/5 of 3/4. So I combine these two, and I know that I colored in 1, 2, 3, and I know that my unit fraction is 20 still. So now this is the answer to my second bit. So I can just add these two. You still get 18 over 20. So you could do it this way as well. It doesn't matter, whichever is easier for you to understand. So once again, my first question was 6/5 multiplied by 3/4. And you can just represent it with using one area model, or you can break down 6/5 into one whole, 5/5, and 1/5, and you can add these two together. So whichever way makes sense, you can use it to figure that out. Anyways, thank you very much, and I'll be back with more multiplication questions. Bye-bye.